Hello guys and ghouls, and welcome back if you're a returning viewer. If you are not and you're new here, thanks so much for finding me and for clicking on this video. So let's get into this list. So this is going to be a kind of a couples vibe type movie list, and I am doing movies from everywhere, from the funny end where they're not really that scary, all the way to your more serious, more drama, more so thriller. And so there should be something in here for everyone. So let's start off on the lighter end of the spectrum. It is Valentine's Day month, so this is the month of cuddling up on the couch with your somebody. Well, these particular movies are more on the comedy end, or dark humor side of things, or just really aren't that serious of a horror movie. So let's start with those. The first one I'm going to talk about, I've actually mentioned on a couple of my lists, and it's because it's just such a great movie. So that is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So if you've seen Resident Alien, or if you've seen Dodgeball, which I know most people who are movie watchers definitely have, then you know Pirate Steve. So Pirate Steve is one of the characters in this movie, and it is just very, very hilarious. It's slapstick, and it basically kind of makes fun of horror movies because it's not serious. For me, that kind of takes away the shock point of the gore that's involved in it, but it is really, really funny. You won't be disappointed if you are someone who enjoys dark humor. Next one I'm going to talk about is Warm Bodies. So this is not your average zombie movie. It is funny. It's a lot more feelings than your average zombie movie, that's for sure. It is rom-com meets zombie. So normally I wouldn't say that that's a good combination, but in this case it works. It's well-rounded, it's funny, it's got an interesting plot line. So if you would like to see something that sounds like that, then I would definitely recommend watching this movie. The next two I'm going to talk about have a main character who is the same person. Her name is Mädchen Amick. I didn't really know her name, I knew her face, but these two movies that she starred in were all over cable when I was a kid, and I really forgot how good they were. The first one is Sleepwalker, and that one is, I mean, it's gnarly, and keep in mind that with all horror, a lot of things do not age well. They age like milk, and a lot of the jokes and a lot of the plot lines are very problematic. So knowing that going in, just be aware and brace yourself that there's going to be a lot of very tasteless jokes, a lot of things that you're going to be like, I don't know how they got away with doing this or who greenlit this. So the reason I say that is because there's a lot of edible weirdness. You'll see what I mean when you watch it. However, there was some things that at that particular time in the early 90s when this movie came out that were pretty cutting edge. Like there's a disappearing car, and you know, one of the creatures in this movie has the ability to change their car, like morph it from one type of car to another, which I know that seems really silly and stupid by today's technology. However, at the time, and when I was a kid watching it, I thought that was bananas and one of the coolest things ever. So if you don't mind a little bit of nostalgia and some 80s, 90s vibes, then you will definitely enjoy this movie. The next one, which also stars the same actress, is called Dream Lover. Now, this one is definitely a lot more serious, a lot more heavy, and there's definitely more nudity than I was prepared for, only because I only ever saw the movie on cable, so a lot of it was completely cut out. Just putting that out there, so in case that is a issue or point of contention for you, then you know ahead of time. But Dream Lover is basically has you spiraling with the main character, and it is really, really good. The ending is also leaves you kind of slack-jawed, and it's just nuts. And it's kind of one of those that makes you wonder, like, what would you do if you were in that situation? So that being said, I won't give any more away, because if you've never seen it, you should definitely watch it. And I think that the main actress, her performance in the movie, super underrated as basically the villain. She just has this way of getting under your skin the way that she probably would have, or that her character is supposed to, for her husband. So yeah, if you enjoy, those movies with the evil person that you love to hate, this one is a good one for you to watch. For the next set of movies that I'm going to talk about, these are the more serious, dramatic, different than the other ones in my list because of that. Because they just have a different tone to them, I would say. The first one I'm going to talk about on that list is Bones and All. This one stars Timothée Chalamet, and it's heavy. It is a little slow paced. However, the storyline is different, so different that it does keep your attention and keep you wondering what's going to happen. And I would have never thought in a million years that I would have felt emotionally attached to the characters in this type of plotline, but I absolutely did. And even though it's twisted, you root for them. So if you're looking for something different, or maybe you just haven't seen this movie in a while and you forgot about it, it is a good one to watch, especially if you have a partner who leans toward the drama type movie versus the horror. This is kind of a best of both worlds on that. The next one I'm going to talk about is Knock at the Cabin. When it comes to this one, when it comes to anything directed by M. Night Shyamalan, I think that it's kind of polarizing. Some people either really love his movies or some people really hate them. I guess it really just depends on what you like out of your movies. If you like them to be thought-provoking, but not necessarily realistic. If you don't mind that it's a underlying message versus it being literal, then that's when his movies are better. Because most of them are satirical in nature, so they're not really about what they're about. So because of that, I really enjoy them. I don't think I've ever seen a M. Night Shyamalan movie that I've not enjoyed personally, but it just, it's really just depends. If it's not your cup of tea, then it's not your cup of tea. Knock at the Cabin, to me, was one that I could not predict what was going to happen. Just kind of kept wondering what I would do in the situation, which I really enjoy movies like that, when you don't know, or when you're constantly thinking about what you might have done differently or what you would be doing if it was you in that situation. And those are really nice conversation point movies. So if you do like to discuss things after a movie with your partner or with the person who you watch movies with, then this one is a good one for that, because you'll end up talking about things and discussing what you think is really going on versus what is being said in the movie. So it's a good conversational movie, so I enjoy it. It's crazy, it's unpredictable. A serious, unpredictable one is something that seems like something you'd want to watch, then this is a good one to see. In that same vein, discussing movies that are crazy and unsettling is Together. I watched this movie start to finish. It is intense. I would say that a lot of the storyline, it really focuses a lot and feels kind of like an analogy for a troubled relationship and for what's going on between these two people that you're watching on the screen. They are just struggling and having an issue, and so they go into this, they find their way into this random cave, contract something. Eventually it starts causing them that anytime they touch each other, that their skin almost welds together. And I'll leave it at that. That's pretty much as you need to know where the movie kind of leads. I didn't know what to expect from it. It's intense, and the gore in it does make you squeamish for sure. The ending is really the only part that I had the biggest issue with. The ending is just, I don't know, it was a choice, I'll say that. And I don't know. I feel like they should have gone a different direction with the ending, personally speaking, but you may feel differently. I don't know. And if you do watch it and you feel some type of way about the ending, absolutely let me know in the comments below. Another movie is Gerald's Game. Just the concept is pretty awful. The idea of a husband and wife, basically they go to a getaway place together. It's just the two of them, and the point is to work on their relationship. And the husband handcuffs the wife to the bed and then has a heart attack. And she's now stuck to the bed and has to figure out what to do. And that is a good, serious one to watch for sure, because it's nuts. It's a thriller, as far as that's concerned, because it keeps your, attention for sure on what's going to happen. Circling back a little to M. Night Shyamalan, so a couple of other ones that I think are good to watch are Old and The Happening. So I know a lot of people don't like The Happening and may not like Old either. I enjoy them. I like a good like sci-fi horror. So Old, the scenery itself is nice. It's set on a beach, and the concept is crazy, and it makes you think about the reality of the pharmaceutical industry that we deal with every day. But that being said, it's just one of those things that makes you think about, those things that you may not think about all the time. And with Old, that's basically part of what it's about. And I won't say any more than that, because if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it in order to really get what I'm talking about. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's one of those that has a lot of twists and turns. You don't know what's happening, and it takes a while for you to ride along with the characters and figure out exactly where things are going. But it is a fun watch, in my opinion. It's interesting, and you really just don't know how it's going to end until you get there. The Happening, that one is a lot darker, I would say, but to me, I just found it interesting. I enjoy thought-provoking movies, and especially when you can combine and elevate horror with thought-provoking. I think those are interesting, so that's why they're on my list. The next two aren't really horror. They kind of are. I guess they're more so thriller. I think that they're good to watch with someone. There's the element of who would you believe in them. I don't personally like when there's a situation where someone's telling the truth and then someone else is lying, and the truthful person gets made to look like the liar the whole time. It just kind of drives you nuts. I hate those. I mean, I know that it makes the evil person just that much more hateable, but man, those just really, really bug me. But that being said, these two, the reason that I have them on here is because they're really good on that. So one of them is The Stepfather, and that one is basically horror, but it's more thriller than anything, I would say. And there's a couple of different versions of this movie that have been remade over the years, but really, honestly, you can't go wrong with any of them. And the whole plot is that, if you sensed that the significant other of someone that you care about or someone that you're related to is bad news, would they trust you and believe you, or would they side with their new love interest? Yeah, when it comes to those, I think that it's a very rock and hard place for the characters always, but I don't know. I just feel like if a person is new in your life and there's other people who are established in your life, you should probably trust the established people unless they've given you reason not to. Just saying. The other one similar to that one is Domestic Disturbance, and that one is a older one, starring Vince Vaughn and John Travolta. Every now and then I think about that movie because it's very similar to The Stepfather, and it's a very similar situation. I just think they're good movies, so if you haven't seen them, definitely check those out. Moving back toward more traditional horror movies, I would say any of the Quiet Place movies, whether it be A Quiet Place 1, Quiet Place 2, or A Quiet Place Day 1. All of them have a way more realistic, serious vibe to them. Even though, yes, there are CGI monsters involved, it's somehow way more realism than your average horror movie. And I would say part of that is based in large part because of John Krasinski and his wife are casting themselves as husband and wife in the movie, because we know they are real life husband and wife. And they just give such strong performances in the movie, along with the kids that are cast, that it just really just gives the whole thing a lot more depth than it would have had without that. So I would say if you're looking for a more serious, immersive movie, then any of those are great. The theater experience for watching any of those was next level, because you almost get to a point where, because there are such quiet moments in the movie, that you feel weird making noise in real life, which I know that sounds ridiculous, but when the whole theater's quiet and the movie's quiet and someone like moves their straw, it's jarring. That being said, those are great movies to watch, especially if you've got some good surround sound in your house. Definitely recommend those. Another good one that questions the trust dynamic is The Orphan. So I've talked about in some of my other lists how the dynamic between this husband and wife, it is next level infuriating. The wife, although she has had some issues The husband is painfully judgmental. Yeah, it's very frustrating the way he behaves. And anyway, so yeah, if you like movies like that, suspense, thriller, all those things, and also if you've seen The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin, that is an old school movie that I grew up watching on cable. Totally inappropriate for kids, but it reminds me of this movie because there's evil in an unexpected place going on and people being frustratingly slow to react to certain things. So if you liked The Good Son, you will definitely like The Orphan if you haven't already seen it. Next is Get Out. Get Out and a lot of the Jordan Peele movies, I would say, fall into the more serious realm when it comes to horror because they have such strong underlying social issues that tend to be brought up in them, and I love them for that purpose. I think that Jordan Peele is a brilliant director and writer, so I really enjoy all of his movies, but Get Out for me feels like a couple-ish one, only because the dynamic, between the main characters and how you see it go from one end of the spectrum to the other. I enjoy watching it for that purpose, but also, again, little tidbits of history that get brought to the forefront in movies. Those are always really cool to see, and he definitely makes it a point to bring up those things in his movies. Check that out if you haven't seen it. And the last couple on this list are a little more slow-paced. However, the way that these movies were directed, the way they were scored, the acting in them, everything to do with that makes them both classics and over-the-top intense. The first one is The Shining. The way that the two main characters and their relationship and the strain that goes on between them and how it escalates just little by little, and you're kind of dragged along the madness with Jack Torrance, the main character. It's one of those things that you don't forget once you've seen it. Great movie, classic for a reason, so if you haven't watched it lately, definitely recommend rewatching that. Next one is Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby is the quintessential betrayal movie, I would say, when it comes to couples in a movie. It is creepy and horrifying and all done without any need for really CGI or things like that. You just kind of fear for the main character the whole time, and you're almost wanting to reach through the screen and help protect this poor person. And because of that, I just feel like it's just such a great movie. But also the ending lullaby type song that's done by Mia Farrow, the main actress, is just so eerie and spot on for it. I just highly recommend watching it. It stands to this day as one of the creepier movies I've ever seen. Now we're going to move on to the more gory ones. So these are for the horror fanatics who already know what they're getting into, will likely have already seen these movies. Yeah, these ones are the don't watch while you're eating type movies for sure. So let's get into those. First one is The Strangers. This one kind of borderlines on the serious / gory, and it's because for the most part you don't end up getting into the gory stuff until the very end because of just how intense that ending scene is. That's why I put it in this category versus the others. It is one that makes you wonder what you would do also. So great for that purpose as well. Extremely loosely based on a true story. To imagine that you could just be minding your business, and even in a place that you've never been before, and someone attack you when you're at your most vulnerable is a very disturbing thing to think about. So that being said, that's why that one's on this part of the list for me. On that same note is Vacancy. One is one that I think about pretty much every time me and my husband go out of town. Again, it's the idea of it and the way that it's set up and disturbing that it sticks with you. It gets your wheels turning, and it also just reminds you of ways to be prepared when you are going places, when you're road tripping, whatever you're doing, just in case. There's a lot in this movie, but it is disturbing. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend. Next is Ready or Not. I always want to call this movie hide and seek, and that's because that's what they play in the movie, and because that really old song playing on the record is talking about playing hide and seek. And so every time I think of the movie, half the time I can't even think of the name of the movie being Ready or Not, because I just think hide and seek. It's unlike, I would say, pretty much any horror movie I've seen recently. I know they are making another one, a sequel to it, that's coming out pretty soon, which I'm excited to see. I always refer to the main actress as having what I call a goat scream. And when you watch the movie, you'll see what I mean. She just has this very unique way of screaming, and I just think it's interesting. The movie has you rooting for the main character the entire time, and you're wondering what's going to happen, how's it going to end. And it's also one of those where there's a subplot line that you're wondering, is this real or is this just in their heads? And that alone was something that I enjoyed seeing the end point of, because I was wondering, are these people lunatics? Are they serious? Is this all real? Is it all fake? Is something bad really going to happen? So if you enjoy those, and this is a good one to watch. 30 Days of Night is the next one I want to talk about, and this one is set in the snow. I want to say it's in Alaska, and it's where basically they're preparing this small town for it being 30 straight days of all darkness. And what happens is that these creatures come into town and people start getting slaughtered. It's horrific. And this couple who was basically estranged or separated has to then work together in order to survive. And so it's an interesting plot line. If you liked watching True Detective Night Country, which I really enjoyed, then you will like this movie. Next is the Amityville Horrors. I will caveat this by saying I am not really a fan of Ryan Reynolds. I'm sorry. It's just this movie in particular I am a fan of, and probably because he plays what I feel is probably his most realistic role, which is him being a total bad, awful guy. I feel like it's the best role I've ever seen him play personally. I enjoy this movie a lot. I think that all the actors do a great job in it. It's one of the first movie I ever saw Chloe Grace Moretz in. She is the girl who played Carrie in the most recent remake of Carrie. I just think it's a great version of the movie. I know other people may like the original better, which to each their own, but for me, I enjoy the newer version. Next on my list is Candyman, and this is Jordan Peele's version, which Tony Todd is amazing in all of the Candyman movies, including this one. However, this one I just feel is the most rewatchable for me personally. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, I am a huge Jordan Peele fan, so for this movie, I feel like he knocked it out of the park. It is moving, it is dark in all the right ways, it has really great visual effects, the underlying messages and reflection of real societal issues. All of those things are just so spot on in this movie, and it is so beautifully tied to the original that I just really can't say anything bad about this movie at all, ever. It is absolutely one of my most favorite horror movies, and I highly recommend watching it if you've never seen it. I know some people are avid watchers of only the originals of certain things and just kind of say whatever to the new ones. Well, this is not one to do that for. I personally love the original, but this remake is just, it's chef's kiss. I think that there's absolutely nothing to hate on about it. It is great. The gore and the murder scenes in it are just, they're really, really well done. It does what you always wish sci-fi would do in horror movies, in other words, because to an extent, I feel like the use of CGI and all those things sometimes detracts from the experience of a movie. versus actually adding or elevating it. And in this one, I feel like it absolutely elevates it. It takes nothing away. They used it in all the right ways. But yeah, I just really, really enjoy the movie. So I think that it is absolutely one to watch. Next on this list is Slither. So Slither really could have gone into my funny section at the beginning. However, because there's so much grossness in it, I had to put it into the gory section because there's a whole lot of gore in this movie, and it just kind of non-stop hits you with a lot of oozing and slime and all kinds of things. But the storyline overall has a lot of really great dark humor in it, and if you are someone who grew up like me watching things like Tremors, then you will enjoy this movie. It has a lot of really good big vibes from that type of movie era. So if you enjoy Tremors, definitely watch Slither. Some good gory, more traditional horror are the third Saw movie and a Saw 3D. So the Saw 3D one basically starts out with a love triangle. Saw 3 basically has a unknown connection between two people the whole time that you're watching it, that basically gets revealed in the end. So that being said, those two are ones that I like to go back and rewatch because I often forget about them or haven't seen them in a while. But yeah, with those, I highly recommend going back and rewatching them. I know Saw 3D is one that I don't think I had watched in several years, and then I rewatched it and was like, this one's a great one. I actually don't know why I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, definitely a good watch. And last but not least, some other category / honorable mention ones that I want to add on this list that you may have not thought about or may have not seen are Paranormal Activity. So Paranormal Activity was, for me, one of the first movies that really scared me while watching it alone. Back when I was younger and had my first apartment, and I was watching it, and it scared me because they do such a good job showcasing that fear, that feeling when you're alone and you hear a sound or something happens, or you just kind of get that vibe, that scary vibe. They just do such a good job of that with very little, and most of it is left kind of to your imagination to imagine what is actually lurking in the darkness, which to me is always way worse than them actually showing you something. So because of that, that's why I have it on this list, and because it involves a couple, and their whole descent into the world of the paranormal because of what they're dealing with. And so because of that, it is on this list. Another series of good movies to watch is the Conjuring franchise. Really, there's ties to the Warrens' relationship throughout the entire series of movies, but there are several where there's specifically couples being shown, like for example Annabelle, where it's got the doctor and his wife dealing with the paranormal situation with the Annabelle doll, and then you've got the husband and wife in the Annabelle origin one where they're opening their house up as an orphanage, which that one is horrifying to a whole new level in my opinion. And then there's other one, the original The Conjuring, where it's the couple dealing with the issues, and they're a whole family that had just moved into a new house. And so there's just elements of coupling throughout that entire franchise. Oh, and the Arnie and his girlfriend in the newest installments of that franchise. Because there's so many movies that have couples referenced or heavily related in the storyline, that's why I'm mentioning that one. And last but certainly not least is the movie Thinner. With there being a lot of weight loss going on with the mass spreading of the use of Ozempic and everything else, which to each their own. If you are using that successfully on your weight loss journey, then no judgment here whatsoever. I'm talking about the situations that are going on in Hollywood where there are people who seem like they probably shouldn't be using it or didn't need it to begin with and are now causing concern. That is part of what got me thinking about this movie, is because basically it almost feels like we're watching the movie Thinner but in real life, because it is an old movie, which you may or may not have heard of it. I personally grew up watching this movie. It used to come on cable all the time, and it's also a Stephen King storyline, and it's about a person who is an awful person basically, and he runs someone over and then uses his pull in society and the people that he knows in order to get it brushed under the rug. And unbeknownst to him, the people who are related to the person who he hit with this car are people who know spells and things along that line, and so they basically put a curse on him in order to make it to where he can't stop losing weight. No matter what he does, no matter what he eats, it just keeps on going down and down as far as his weight is concerned. It becomes a very, very bad problem where he ends up, really needing help from these people in order to remove the curse. And again, like I mentioned earlier on in this video, watching these movies back, take things with a grain of salt. There's going to be a lot of problematic things, including a lot of jokes and other things that just really should not have been in the movie. However, overall, it is one of those that is just a classic for me because I grew up watching it, kind of like The Mangler, which if you've never seen The Mangler, that's another one I recommend watching. It's gnarly, it's crazy. It is one that is very niche, and a lot of people probably have never even heard of it. I grew up watching that one too and thought that laundry machines were horrifying because of it. Also, old furnaces that look like the Mangler machine. It is one that Robert Englund stars in, and if you thought Freddy was one of the only characters that he did frighteningly well, you would be wrong. He plays a really creepy, gross old man tycoon person in this movie and does it so well. So if you've never seen The Mangler, definitely check that out. Anyway, that is where I'm going to end this list, guys. Basically, I just wanted to give you guys a list of movies that you might not have seen, might want to rethink about watching during this month of February with your significant someone. Stay tuned for my next video. If you are not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button so you can catch me in the next video. All right, see you later, guys.